Right. So the lecture for today is on the topic of urbanization and also unemployment. Those are the two issues that I want to discuss with you this morning. All right. So let me share my slide with you. Saya cari dulu mana saya letak ni. Sekejap, okay. All right. So, saya cari dulu. Hold on. Urbanization. All right. Okay, I'm gonna share. Oh, where was it? Mm. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Kenapa tak ada pula? Sekejap. Okay, this is one. Thank you for waiting. Okay, so the topic on urbanization and also unemployment or urban unemployment, ya. Itu tajuk untuk kita hari ini. Okay, so we will look at the urbanization trends globally and also some projections with regard to urbanization and also the role of cities and the informal sector and the economy. And then from then we move on to the topic on urban unemployment. All right. And one of the model or theory with regard to rural urban migration is the one by Todaro, and we'll discuss that briefly. And then toward the end, we will look at some of the policy options, ya, policy option ataupun policies, ya, for limiting rural urban migration. Okay, jadi itu apa namanya the program for us this morning, ya. Okay, so urbanization apa maksudnya? Right. Urbanization refers to the increase in proportion of percentage. It's not referring to city or how big the size of the city is, but rather it's referring to the population, yeah, of the people who live in the urban areas. So it refers to the increase. It is a process, yeah, increase in the proportion or percentage of urban population relative to whole population in the country, right? So it is a process of people ataupun of people living in the urban areas in relation to the population of the country. Sorry, yeah. So it is a socio-demographic process in which societies transform from primarily rural population to primarily urban ways of life. Jadi pertukaran ataupun perubahan daripada um, rural way of life to an urban ways of life. Nah, kalau dibandingkan dengan satu lagi konsep which is quite similar adalah konsep city growth ataupun urban growth. Jadi urban growth ini merujuk kepada the growth and the physical size of the city. Okay, growth and the physical size of the city. For example, city which was a small town before and has grown to a big, cities in terms of the area. So urban growth may be in response to happens in response to the high rate of urbanization. And I think one good example of this is, for example, a place like Kuching, yeah, where the populasi telah bertambah, yeah, increase in population size. Most disebabkan, ya, sebab utama bertambah populasi adalah perpindahan ataupun migration of people from the rural areas to the urban areas. In this particular case, from the rural part of Sarawak to Kuching, or even to Miri or Sibu and so on, even Bintulu as well. Right? Bintulu at one time was a small town, small fishing village, more or less. Yeah, and then when gas was discovered, right, the town has grown to where it is now, yeah, where the population has increased so much, right? So population increase in urban areas, but at the same time, the city ataupun the town area also expand, yeah, expansion of the town area. So the city increase urban population that will lead to city growth. Yeah. Okay. Ini contoh lah saya bagi berkenaan dengan Kuching. This is Kuching in the old days. Kuching in 1857, for example, yeah, when it was still under the Brooke rule, Raja Brooke dulu. Yeah, and we have some things, some pictures, old pictures of steamship, yeah, during the Raja Brooke era, and then some of, I don't think any one of you knows this because you're not born yet. You may have seen some pictures. Yeah, the old courthouse, for example, you can see from there, which is now still there, but what happened is over here is the waterfront now. Yeah? And then on this side, also the old wharfs. Yeah, now is the waterfront of Kuching. Yeah. Okay. Now compare that to now. Right, this is the modern city of Kuching. What it is now. Cuma yang tidak ada sini apa dia? Not in the picture.
Jembatan.
Yes, jembatan itu tidak ada, belum ada. Ketika gambar ini diambil, jembatan belum ada. I don't have the latest picture. I could have, search for it, Google for it. I'm quite sure ada gambar itu. But anyway, you see the expansion here. See the old. If you compare the old town, yeah, macam ni, and turning into something like this, yeah. So the area dia berkembang, both side of the river, for example, yeah, where you have, the considered as the city area. Tapi cuma yang unik di Kuching ini kita ada dua bandaraya, Kuching South and Kuching North. Right? Actually, it's quite small lah kalau dibandingkan dengan big cities of the world. Okay, so let's look at some of the look at this issue dalam konteks. Yeah, in the developed countries, urbanization has taken place long time ago. Yeah, So they're very much urbanized. So they have passed through the process rural-urban migration. In fact, it is on the reverse now. People from the urban areas moving out to the suburban areas and so on. Okay, and also there's a concurrent with the demographic transition as well as the industrializations. Yeah. However, in the developing countries, negara yang sedang membangun, this is where urbanization is still very active. Yeah? Most developing countries are going through a major phase of urbanization, and if you look at some of the figures, some of the what is happening later on, the future of urbanization is happening in the developing countries. Yeah. We will account for 93% of the 2 billion increase in the global urban population between the year 2000 and 2030. So it's ongoing process, yeah, at the moment. So Latin America and East Asia is the farthest along, ya, semakin cepat di kawasan ini. And the rest of Asia is a little bit behind, yeah. Then if you look at Africa, Africa is a little bit slow, yeah, in terms of urbanization than the rest of the world, yeah. So many parts of the countries in Africa, the majority are still living in the rural areas, right? To just to put in the proper context lah, dengan urbanization ini. So if you look at the trends, yeah, trends in urbanization, urban population growth is generally far more rapid than the total population growth. Kenapa ni? What is this statement? Why is this so? Jadi what we are saying is that in terms of the rate of population growth in the urban areas is far more rapid, lebih cepat daripada the total population growth in a particular country. The reason for that is because for the whole country, it depends on the natural growth, ya. Natural rate of increase itu through birth and also death, right? However, in the urban areas, other than the birth ataupun kelahiran yang ada di kawasan bandar, juga apa yang berlaku adalah mereka dari kawasan luar bandar berpindah ke kawasan bandar. So that contributes to the growth in the population of the urban areas, right? And also about half of the population, urban population growth are accounted by the migrants of rural areas. Jadi kebanyakan pertumbuhan populasi di kawasan bandar itu dikaitkan ataupun disebabkan oleh rural urban migration. Okay, so half of the world population by 2000 in the year 2007, about 50% of the world were living in the urban areas. So in terms of figures, the world's urban population reached about 2.9 billion in the year 2000 and projected to reach about 5 billion or 60% of the world population living in the urban areas in the year 2030. Yeah. Now, if you compare to only 30% of the world population who were in the urban areas in 1950. Yeah, banyak perubahan. Yeah. In Malaysia, we have quite a high percentage of population living in urban areas now, 76.5%. Yeah. In other words, and this is the year 2018. About 24 million, 24.5 million of Malaysian population are living in urban areas. Okay, so the rest are living in rural areas lah. Jadi sangat tinggi. Apa sebabnya apa namanya populasi ini berada di kawasan bandar di Malaysia ni? What are the possibilities? Apa sebab ataupun what factors contribute to this? Iya dia. Okay. The main factor is employment, right? People are looking for jobs, and employment opportunities are available in the urban areas, but not so much in the rural areas. So people have migrated looking for employment for jobs in the urban areas. And also people who are educated, they tend to live in the urban areas and working in the urban areas as well. Yeah. So those are among the reasons. Development are taking place in urban areas. Yeah. So those development, for example, industries and so on, they create employment opportunities. Yeah. So that is the attraction in the urban areas. Yeah. And developing countries, developing countries, cities are also growing far more rapidly compared to those in the developed countries, right? At the moment, yeah. Kalau yang in the past, of course, things were the opposite, yeah. The opposite, in other words, in developed countries at one time in the past, the rate of urbanization was very, very fast. Thing which is associated with industrialization, yeah. So almost all of the population increase in the year 2030 will be absorbed by urban areas of the less developed regions of the world. And looking at past events, between 1995 to the year 2000, the world's urban population grew at a rate of about 2.2% per year, quite higher. And between 2000 and 2030, it is projected to grow at an average rate of 1.8%, slight decline, yeah. And at this rate of 1.8%, the world's urban population is expected to double in about 38 years. Yeah? In other words, the existing urban population will double its size. Kumpulkan sekali lah di seluruh dunia dengan kadar 1.8% growth in urban population, it is expected to double in 38 years' time. Okay, so the urban growth rate of less developed countries reached 3.0% in 1995 to 2000 compared to 0.5% in the more developed countries. All right, so in other words, in the developed countries, because most of the people are already living in the urban areas, and the rate of urbanization is or has been slowing down. Yeah? Has been slowing down, not as rapid as those in the developing countries. So in contrast, the rural urban population of the less developed countries is expected to grow very slowly, ya, kalau dibandingkan dengan pertumbuhan populasi di kawasan bandar. Ya. Example 0.2% per year during the year 2000 to 2030. Okay. This is more or less a graph and also some data, yeah, showing the rate of population growth, urban and rural, between the year 1950 to 2050. Yeah, some of these are beyond the 2020 projections lah. ya, bukan berdasarkan data yang sebenar. But before that is based on the exact figure, right? So the population as a whole is growing, but you look at the blue color line here that indicate the growth of the population in the urban areas, and the green one is the rural areas. So decreasing population, increasing population in the in the rural areas indicated by the green line, and the growth in the city ataupun urban population indicated by the blue line here. Right. So ini juga menunjukkan the projections, yeah, from 2015 to 2045, for example, less and less rural people will be living in the rural areas, people in the rural areas, but there is an increasing number of people living in the urban areas. Ya, itu menunjukkan the global population in billions and the distribution by urban and rural setting. Okay, so urbanization also, as I said, is a process, and it happens in stages. Yeah, happen in stages, and this figure here shows you the process of or the stages of urbanization. First of all, this is a timeline here, and this is on this x-axis is the urban population. Yeah, in the beginning, right? So very much all societies actually were very much rural. Yeah, all countries. Yeah, even the developed countries now started as a rural uh, region as well. Yeah, um, so this is where among least developed countries where the rural population is still very high. Yeah? And then with the process of urbanization, people are moving to the urban areas. So this is a stage, ya, stage yang kedua nih, transition stage where people are migrating, yeah, to the urban areas and living there, right? And then so through urbanization, and that is happening in the developing countries, right? So this is the situation. The first stage is situation in the least developed countries. Right? Di kebanyakan juga negara yang apa nama least developed ini, for example in Africa and some part in Asia, they are at this stage, ya, kurang, ya, in terms of urbanization. But among the developing countries at this stage banyak berlaku, ya, urbanization among developing countries. And then of course among the developed countries they have been urbanized much earlier, right? So you could see that most of the people, between 80 to 90% or even more of the population in the country will reach a stage of urban society, yeah, later on. And that is already happening in the developed countries. All right, so that is the stages of urbanization. Okay, so map ini, this map here shows you the, but this is 2000, but I think the trend pun sama lah percentage population urban di dunia ni. Most of the countries in the West, for example, yeah, Europe, America, are having apa nama ni more than 50%, some more than 75% urbanization. Yeah, in other words, people who live in the urban areas. But in countries seperti Africa, yeah, this is where maybe, and also some part of Asia, Cambodia, Myanmar, and so on, where the urbanization masih rendah. And also this one on I think this Guinea, yeah, very much apa nama ni Papua New Guinea, still very much rural based, yeah. So Africa, rate of urbanization is still low, and India and so on, where the population is still very much living in the rural areas, and also parts of China as well. Although China has now, you could see people are flocking into the eastern coast of China, where development is taking place. A lot of cities around this area. So there's been changes, yeah, but most part of China remains in terms of urbanization masih lagi between 35 to about 50%. Yeah, so that is the percentage of urban population, yeah, throughout the world. Okay. Now, the other thing which happened, as I said just now, as a result of urbanization, city will have to grow as well. Yeah, city will have to grow. Two ways where cities can grow. One is through expansion of the existing city, and the other is the development of new cities or towns. Yeah, and so city growth mainly happen due to geographic expansion of the urban areas through the process of annexation. Yeah, in other words, you add, area, and you from the existing area A, for example, and then it increase to B, C, and so on. Yeah, through process of annexation. Um, and then the other reason is through transformation and reclassification rural villages into small urban settlements. Contoh tadi saya bagi seperti Bintulu at one time was a rural village, a fishing village, and turned into urban areas, yeah, later on. Sama juga lah some small areas dulu di Sarawak, di Semenanjung dan sebagainya. Sabah, you have small villages which has now turned into urban settlements as well. Ya, banyak contoh sebenarnya which you can think of. Alright, so that's in terms of city growth. Ya. Jadi saya kata tadi city growth ini is berlaku disebabkan oleh apa? Disebabkan oleh um, peningkatan, ya, peningkatan populasi yang berada di kawasan bandar, ya, kawasan bandar. Okay. This one I think more or less I've discussed on the world urban population in terms of projections and so on lah. Jadi I would like to emphasize here that the future growth in the urban populations are happening in the developing countries, but not so much in the developed countries. In developed countries, they have more or less level off, as I said, because they are already urbanized. In other words, they have already become urban population mostly. Yeah, so people are not so much moving into the urban areas anymore. But in the developing countries, the process is still ongoing. Okay, jadi kalau nak lihat the distribution in terms of the world ataupun by regions, so you can see actually the one which is very active, yeah, the orange and red color, those are in the recent years, year 2000 and also 2011. And the blue colors are 1980, and also the lighter blue 1960. So as you can see from here, the developed countries contohnya banyak most of the urbanization have taken place in the 1960s to 1980s, and they're still going now, still growing because population is still growing, but less drastic compared to, for example, Latin America, yeah? Compared to Middle East and North Africa and East Asia and so on. Yeah, you can see here very fast growth. Yeah, started in the year 2000 and 2001. Okay. All right. Another interesting phenomenon. You could see the size of the population by looking at the spot itulah ya. For example, the red color represents a population of place or city with more than 10 million people, right? So, for example, all this area in China, in Japan, Japan, Osaka, for example, in Japan. And then where the Philippines, we have Manila, which has more than 10 million. Kita di Malaysia belum sampai, ya. We don't have any city in Malaysia which has more than 10 million people. We have maybe between 1 to 5 million tu adalah, ya, seperti Kuala Lumpur, but less than the 10 million. Ya. India, Bangladesh, around this area, and also in Europe, right, in America, New York. This one, I think, I don't know what place is this. Mexico City, I think. And over here is probably Los Angeles, right? And down here you have in Brazil, right? Rio de Janeiro, dan sebagainya. Okay, jadi you can see where the distributions are in terms of the city population, and also on the other side here is the percentage of urbanization throughout the world. So, yeah. Now, remember the definition of urbanization tadi adalah merujuk kepada bilangan ataupun percentage of people who are already living in the urban areas. Yeah. Okay. So, what are the factors which contribute to increasing urbanization? As I mentioned earlier on, one of which is rural-urban migration. Yeah, rural-urban migration is the number one factor which contribute to increasing urbanization. Yeah. The other one, of course, is the natural increase lah. Natural increase ni natural population increase, itu how many were born, how many died in the city. So the positive net effect adalah the contribute to the growth. Yeah, birth tolak death will contribute to the natural population increase. Yeah, the natural population increase, if you compare between urban and areas, there shouldn't be much different, in terms of the natural increase. What matters is this one here, the number one, because people are moving away from the rural areas, pergi ke kawasan bandar, right? Okay, I'm just putting this one here. I like this figure just to illustrate, the point I'm talking about. Yeah, the natural increase, right? Birth minus death. So natural increase in population is when there is a higher birth rate than death rate. So population is growing, both in urban and also rural lah. Tapi the rural urban migration itu adalah will contribute to the population in the urban areas, and at the same time reduce the population who are living in the rural areas. Yeah. So that is the impact, the effect of rural urban migration. When people moving from countryside to cities and also to towns. So that increase urban population and then contribute to the growth of cities, growth of cities in the country. Okay, so why do people move to urban areas? Right, let's look at the context first. Pertama sekali, 50 million. There are about 50 million new urbanites yang masuk ke kawasan bandar, either born ataupun migration tiap-tiap tahun, 50 juta moving to urban areas, ataupun more or less about 1 million new urbanites setiap minggu in the world. We're talking about the world. Ataupun kalau kita lihat satu hari mungkin 150,000 ya more or less ya, yang berada ataupun pindah ke kawasan bandar. And also about 75,000 rural people migrate to cities each day. Yeah, each day. Right. So in other words, out of 155,000 tadi, 75,000 are rural urban migrants. So the major changes in the developing world, particularly and not so much in the developed world, because as I said, developed world, they have reached the stage of stable urbanization. There's no, very little additional people moving or migrating to the urban areas, except through, of course, through birth rates lah, through natural increase. Natural increase ini memang betul lah, kalau ramai berada di kawasan bawah bandar, di kawasan bandar, maka lebih ramai juga yang akan dilahirkan di situ. Right. So migration then makes a significant contribution to the growth of urban areas, and it accounts for between 40 to 60% of annual urban population growth in developing world. And also there's a huge rural to urban migration potential in areas having a large rural population. So there is the tendency lah, there is a potential. We're talking about potential, potensi untuk rural urban migration adalah tinggi di kalangan ataupun di kawasan di mana rural population itu tinggi. Yeah. Okay, and then for non-formal sector in the urban areas, also this is one issue yang ada kaitan dengan urbanization, the growth of non-formal sector, right? The non-formal sector. So about 50% of urban population of the third world countries work in the informal sector. Kerana apa? Kerana the formal sector tidak dapat absorb, ya, tidak dapat memberi peluang pekerjaan kepada urban population. So the rest are engaged in informal sector. So apa yang dinamakan sebagai informal sectors ini, these are small service activities and owned by individual or family. Right? Kedai kopi, for example. Right? A lot of people are working in coffee shops, in restaurants. Restoran tu kira apa nama, registered lah. But some of the stalls yang jual makanan, they're not dia merupakan informal sectors, jual hamburger, hot dogs, apalagi cendol tepi jalan dan sebagainya. Those are informal sectors, ataupun motorcycle repair shops and so on. These are informal sectors, and they employ people. A lot of these sectors also employ people. So informal sector is very important because it provides jobs ataupun employment for the urban population who otherwise would remain unemployed if they are not, if you don't have a job with the informal sector. Okay. All right. So informal sector, just a bit about informal sector. And this is what I call the diversified set of economic activities ataupun enterprises, and the workers who are not regulated or protected by the state. Jadi itu informal sector lah. Kerja situ boleh dapat gaji, tapi there is no protection. In other words, the activity ataupun sektor tu boleh tutup bila-bila masa, and nothing you can do about that. And so that is one example. So employment and informal economy is categorized as one, self-employment in informal enterprises, right? The employers, or own account operators, for example, they don't employ anyone else but themselves. Unpaid contributing family workers, for example, those are also informal sector. bekerja dengan bapa, dengan mak, dengan family and so on. Yeah. While as the other category adalah wage employment in informal jobs. Yeah. These are non-standard employees of informal enterprises, and also non-standard employees of formal enterprises as well. Yeah, or formal and also informal, and also casual. Many of them are day laborers. Dia gaji harian, gaji hari ataupun daily paid rather than monthly paid. Yeah. And very casual. And also may include the industrial outworkers ataupun sometimes called homemakers or home workers. In other words, they work from home instead of working in the factory, for example. So that's the right. So now this is quite common in the third world countries. As you can see from this picture here, there's so many examples. Yeah, for example, in unregulated factories, garment makers, shoemakers, ya, yang buat repair kasut tepi jalan, tepi jalan pula di kaki lima, ya. You can see this even in Kuching, banyak juga tempat mereka they repair shoes ataupun sandal sebagainya. And they can earn quite a bit of money actually. Satu pasang kasut mungkin may cost about 10-15 ringgit for repair depending on the apa yang dibuat lah. Then if you can get 10 done in a day, of course that's a bit of significant amount of money. In small workshops, scrap metal recyclers, shoemakers, I already mentioned that, weavers, garment makers, embroider. Ini banyak sampai dari Sabah di sini. Di Sabah, di KK itu, and also some of the towns in Sabah, you can see a lot of these people by the roadside, of course they have or by the kat tepi gerai situ, di KK ramai yang buat jadi tukang jahit dan sebagainya, you can cut your jeans or your pants or trousers, and they do the repair situlah, um, and gain some income from there. Unfortunately, I think I was told, I don't know because I did not interview them, but I was told when I asked some of these non-local, they are migrants, legal or illegal, I don't know, who come during daytime and do business there, and they go back to one of the islands somewhere, and where they settle. Okay, so but anyway, they make money as well, and what else? On the street or in the open spaces, we have street vendors. Ini banyak street vendors ni. Dia push cart vendors dan sebagainya yang jual macam-macam barang. Garbage collectors sometimes, also belongs to this group. Kedai gunting, kalau di tepi jalan, used to be quite a few in the old days, kedai gunting tepi jalan, and I'm quite sure this is happening in some countries, in India, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, I think, where you can find roadside barbers, yang gunting rambut, construction workers, some of them are employed, sebagai daily paid construction workers. Dan in the field, also contoh-contoh informal economy ini, small farmers, agricultural laborers, shepherd, forest gatherers, these are in the rural areas lah. Okay, but we are, talking about the urban areas, and these are the pictures, yang boleh, yang berlaku di kawasan bandar. Okay, so the informal sector contribute to the economy actually, kerana mereka memberi peluang, untuk memberi peluang pekerjaan, for those urban population, Jadi they play a very important role actually. Ya. Satu perkara yang agak apa nama tu signifikan juga adalah kaum wanita, ya, kaum wanita yang terlibat dalam informal sector. It seems that a lot of women are engaged in informal sector. Women comprise the majority of those migrated to urban areas as well. Either they're following their husband or they migrate themselves. So most of these women ended up working in the informal sector. Right. So yeah. So the significance of informal sector tadi lah. Okay, let's move on and shift our attention to urbanization problems. Right? Urbanization problem. Apa masalah yang yang berlaku di kawasan bandar ataupun yang kaitan dengan urbanization tadi? One is as more people are migrating to the urban areas, a lot of things happen. Number one, some who migrated may not get any job, may not get any employment as they expected. Ya, dulu sebelum pindah mereka memikirkan if I go to the town, if I go to the city, I can get a job and I can earn a living and I can earn income and so on. Ya, tapi sebenarnya sebahagian juga tidak dapat. Ya, they ended up without any job. Ya, so leading to urban unemployment di kawasan bandar. Right, so people looking for job but it's not enough. Yeah, the other problem is kawasan-kawasan setinggan ini, ya, yang berlaku ataupun people are building houses in areas outside of the main city area, for example, by the river bank and so on. Yeah, so because of the lack of housing, number one, there's lack of housing, possible reason. Number two, people could not afford the housing dengan harga yang mungkin mahal, but and at the same time they are not earning money or not earning as much money as they were expected. Yeah. So if they move to the town, they need to have housing lah, a place to stay. So that is the number two problem. Berkaitan dengan itu adalah the lack of public services as well, yeah, because water supply, sewage, and also transportations are normally provided for to certain areas, ya, bukan kawasan setinggan, not squatters. Squatters they don't provide, ya, because that's illegal by the way, ya. Jadi kebanyakan mereka yang tinggal di kawasan luar bandar, di kawasan bandar, di kawasan squatters ini ataupun setinggan ini, sometimes they don't have electricity supply, 24-hour electricity. Sometimes they have no clean water supply dan sebagainya. Dan sampah-sampah itu memang biasalah. So you can see actually even in Kuching, Sungai Tabuan itu is quite famous for now all the way sampai Mall River City, but that's the river used to be very dirty. Rubbish are floating up and down the river because people who stay by the riverside they just took mengambil cara mudah untuk menyelesaikan masalah sampah. They just throw to the river instead of putting it in the bins, for garbage collection. So I hope they have solved the problem now, because a few years ago it was a major problem. But we could see from the bridge dulu, rubbish as you cross Tabuan River, this rubbish ataupun garbage ini floating on the along the river. Sorry. Alright, the congestion, transportation problem, jalan kecil ataupun too many cars and so on, in some cities, Alright, let's talk about urban employment a bit ya. Jadi urban employment ini memang berlaku di mana-mana in urban areas throughout the world. Some may have a more serious problem than other cities ya. Itu bergantung kepada peluang-peluang pekerjaan yang ada di kawasan berkenaan. Okay, so dari segi konsepnya, urban employment ini it occurs when supply of labor in the urban areas exceeded the labor demand. Jadi peluang pekerjaan ada, tetapi bilangan yang memohon, yang mau bekerja itu lebih ramai daripada peluang-peluang yang sedia ada. So it ended up in unemployment for some who are not lucky, yang tidak dapat peluang pekerjaan. And then the other fact about unemployment ini adalah the level of open unemployment are higher in the urban areas compared to the rural areas. Kerana apa? Kerananya in the rural areas, it's not so much about unemployed, but rather what is happening in the rural areas is more to underemployment rather than unemployment. Yeah? Why is this so? I mean, di luar bandar tu ada kebun dan sebagainya, right? Ataupun farm or a paddy field ataupun some other things lah which are doing, but mostly farming, agriculture based. Some families, for example, they own a small plot of land. Jadi untuk mengusahakan tanah tersebut may not need a lot of manpower, tetapi tenaga pekerja ramai dalam keluarga. So what it means is that they work, but they only work for a short period of time per day. Instead of working 8 hours, the family members may be just working 2 or 3 hours, and then it's done. Tak ada kerja. All finished, siap. So that's the term, So it's more to underemployment rather than unemployment. Right? Ada kerja tapi kerja sedikit saja that you can finish in a short time to complete. Okay, and that's also one reason why they decided to go to the urban areas lah, kerana tak cukup pekerjaan. Kerja yang boleh dilakukan oleh satu orang saja dilakukan oleh 4-5 orang, for example. So that is a form of underemployment. So rural to urban migration happen because of the need ataupun mahu mencari pekerjaan, in search of employment, or rather expected to have an employment, expected rather than actual employment, which leads to higher urban unemployment. Jadi what it means is that maybe in a particular urban areas ataupun city there exists, memang dah ada unemployment, but with the rural people who are also expecting to get jobs in the urban areas, so the flow of rural urban migration continue, and that what do you call this, menyebabkan lebih ramai lagi yang unemployed in the urban areas, because additional people coming from the rural areas and couldn't get the job in the urban areas as well. Okay. All right. Are you with me? Are you following? Boleh faham ke?
Boleh, Prof.
Boleh.
Okay. Thank you. So I move on, Nak bekerja tapi tak ada kerja. So this is, I want to work. Give me any job. Sometimes you may resort to that lah. Ini benda macam ni yang boleh berlaku di mana they may end up in the informal sector. When the formal sector cannot absorb anymore. Okay. Di Malaysia, this is just a bit about what is happening in Malaysia. Some of these figures are not up to date, ya. Cuma yang semalam saya tengok based on the ministry's data, ya, laporan. Because you know lah, by the year 2020 and 2021, and 2021 has already improved, but 2020 is the worst year, where a lot of people are without job, ya, disebabkan oleh COVID-19 pandemic, ya. Alright. But anyway, just briefly, the unemployment rate in Malaysia is also quite high, 3.48% as of 2018. Ya, dan telah meningkat, ya, up 1.6% from the year 2017. This is based on the report. Ya. So that is in terms of percentage, but in terms of numbers, that's about 525,000 people. Yeah. Okay. There is an improvement also in terms of employment, up 2.6%, equivalent to about 14.89 million people employed in Malaysia. Another fact is that the labor force, total labor force, yeah, bilangan tenaga pekerja, ya, labor force rose by 2.6% to 15.42%. Okay, so that's a rise in the number of people who can work, yeah, the able-bodied people, yeah. But because the number of job is less, maka some of these people will result in, inilah sebabnya tadi, ya, 525,000 tu as a result of this, ya, the extra labor force tadi yang masuk dalam labor market. Ya. So on a seasonally adjusted basis, the jobless rate also stood at 3.4%, the same as in July. Yeah, so they do this monitoring every month. The Ministry of Labor, they have this figure to determine the rate of employment in the country. Okay, so the unemployment rate in Malaysia is average about 3.29% from 1998 until the year 2018. So it's about that on average per year. Kadang-kadang dia tinggi, kadang-kadang rendah, but on average it's about 3.29%. And the highest was 4.5% recorded in March of 1999, and a record low of 2.7% in August of 2012. So many of these are happening in the urban areas, right, where people are, yeah. As I said, because people are moving to the urban areas, and the rural areas mungkin tidak ada banyak masalah. Because they have been moving out from the rural areas when there is no job, nothing. But those who remain may be they don't have the problem for unemployment, tapi underemployment, as I said before. Okay, so by about 2 years later, which is 2020, the employment rate was 4.7%, but that is quite is very high actually. Disebabkan oleh keadaan COVID-19, ya, pandemic di mana business closed down dan sebagainya, and tidak ada pekerjaan dan macam-macam lagi. I think you know what the situation is, ya. For many months, in fact about a year or so, it affected everybody. Okay, so itu keadaan di Malaysia lah. So, okay, back to the issue of rural-urban migration tadi. Kita dah lihat tentang perkara yang berlaku, perpindahan penduduk luar bandar ke kawasan bandar, and not everybody but there is, in terms of characteristic, kebanyakan mereka yang pindah ke kawasan bandar itu dari luar bandar are young people, ya. The old people don't normally move away from the rural areas, kecuali mereka follow their children in the urban areas. Okay. So factors contributing, I've seen this earlier on just now, affecting rural urban migration. One is social and economic factors. Contohnya getting away from traditional social structure, is one reason. Okay, sebab di kawasan luar bandar, it's very much traditional in nature, and so one reason for them to move out is to get away from that kind of traditional social structure tadi. Number two, people are moving for the reason ataupun disebabkan oleh education. In other words, people go to the urban areas where universities, colleges are, right? So they move out of the rural areas. And the number one reason, of course, is employment. Employment, that's the number one reason, social and economic reason for migrating. In terms of demographic factors, also increasing population due to reduction in death rate. Dari segi demografi, bertambah penduduk disebabkan oleh kadar kematian semakin berkurangan. So there is a pressure yang dihadapi di kawasan luar bandar, bertambahnya penduduk, dan so some of this population needs to move out from the rural areas, to dari segi demografi lah. Dari segi cultural factors pula, some younger ones actually, the youth, are more attractive to the life in the city. Kalau dulu lagi hebat, when there is no internet facilities that penetrate the rural areas, lagi ramai lah yang pergi kawasan bandar because that's where they can get those facilities. Tapi sekarang ni rural areas pun, some rural areas, not all, masih ramai lagi rural areas who don't have. In fact, some of you, I suspect, may have problem now with internet connectivity because of the location where you are at the moment. Yang keempatnya, ease of communication is also another factor which contribute to rural urban migration. Senang untuk pergi balik ke bandar, because there are roads available. Kapal terbang pun ada, but usually because of ease of communication dari segi jalan raya, for example, kemudahan jalan raya menyenangkan manusia, going to and also coming back, to the town and so on. Jadi senang, So instead of taking 2-3 days to go, you can reach your destination to the town in just a matter of 1 or 2 hours, for example. So the ease of communication. Okay. Dari segi characteristics of rural urban migration, as I said just now, are mostly young migrants, both male and females, age between 15 to 24 years old. Nah, ini berdasar kepada kajian lah. And women are either and also women, are also migrants, either following their husband or these are also single women, yang sama ada belajar ataupun bekerja di kawasan bandar. Keduanya, in terms of education, those migrants, rural urban migrants, are more likely to be more educated, and they are more likely to migrate to the urban areas. So kalau dibandingkan dengan yang tidak berpelajaran ataupun kurang berpelajaran, those who are educated are likely to be migrating to the urban areas. Belajar di kawasan bandar, kemudian mencari pekerjaan di kawasan bandar. That's usually what is happening. I'm one of those who are educated, in Kuala Lumpur, and then after that, of course, overseas lah, but in the urban areas, and then get jobs in the urban areas as well. More or less urban lah, kat universiti kan. right? Kalau difikirkan kota Semerahan itu sebagai urban areas. But I live in Kuching, yeah, but I may work in Semerahan. Still considered as part of the urban areas of Kuching lah. Okay, and also economic. Dari segi ekonomiknya, dari segi ekonomi ya. Previously, people who move, who migrate to the urban areas are people who are poor, landless, tak ada tanah untuk diusahakan, unskilled, tidak ada mempunyai skill tertentu. Those are people who move. Now, yang pindah tu also include those who are better off, those who are richer. So, in other words, it's all kind, tak kisah sama ada yang mempunyai status sosioekonomi yang tinggi ataupun rendah. The likelihood of moving to the urban areas adalah lebih kurang sama. Tidak ada banyak perbezaan. So that's the characteristics of the rural urban migrants, both male and female, young, educated, and economically diverse, economically diverse group. Okay, so you study, you graduate, then you try to find jobs. Okay, so also women, a lot of this are also women who migrating to look for job as well, just like men. One of the factors is that di negara yang most countries, I would say, where women are allowed to be employed, to go for college degrees, to higher education and so on. Most countries in Asia and also overseas. So women more independent. They can look for their jobs. They can earn money. Tapi ada juga negara, 1-2 buah negara di mana, ataupun I don't know, maybe more than that lah, where women are not encouraged to, ataupun tidak dibenarkan untuk sekolah tinggi, ataupun tidak pergi sekolah, tidak dibenarkan untuk bekerja di luar daripada rumah, bagi contoh. It's still happening, unfortunately. So that being the case, di negara tersebut saya rasa mungkin kaum wanita itu tidak banyak migrate ke kawasan bandar lah. That's the caveat dia, some of the exceptions rather. Okay. All right, we move on to looking at the theories of rural-urban migration. One of the famously quoted theory of rural-urban migration is the one by Harris and Todaro. Right? Harris is known as the Harris-Todaro model, or theory of rural-urban migration. So basically, mengikut mereka ni, pandangan ataupun dalam teori tersebut, rural-urban migrants are attracted by the expected value of city wages. Remember, expected, it may not be real, but the expectation is there. Expected value of city wages, gaji yang ataupun the income that you can get in the urban areas through employment. Jadi mereka mengatakan bahawa expected wage, ini formula yang mereka katakanlah, the equation is equals to the wage in the organized sector didarabkan dengan peluang untuk mendapat pekerjaan dalam organized sector. In other words, peluang di sini adalah peluangnya satu sebenarnya. If it is one, maknanya 100%. But the opportunities to get a job in the organized sector is not 100%. So it could be like maybe 30% or 0.3 in terms of proportion. So darab dengan itu dicampurkan dengan plus the wage in the informal sector. Remember tadi kita kata bahawa informal sector banyak employed, rural urban migrants ataupun the population in the city. Jadi dua peluang ya. One is put it this way. Untuk mendapat pekerja tu sama ada di sektor organized sector, formal sector ataupun informal sector ya. Ataupun formal ataupun informal sector. So if you don't get one in the formal sector, maybe you end up having jobs in the informal sector. Assumption sini begitulah, right? And so let's say 30% chance of getting job in the government sector. So this will be 0.5, yeah. And then over here will be gaji informal sector didarab dengan tolak tadilah one tadi tolak percentage yang dapat kerja di formal sector tadi ya. So 1 minus P. As long as that is higher than the wage in the agriculture sector. WA ini menunjukkan gaji yang diperolehi di kawasan luar bandar ataupun agriculture sector. Right? So as long as the expected wage tadi, whether it is in the organized sector or informal sector, is higher than the agriculture sector or wage ataupun gaji ataupun pendapatan di kawasan luar bandar, maka migrants will continue to migrate to the urban areas. Yeah? So migrant will continue to add to the urban slums as long as the expected wage exceeds the agriculture wage. Itu basically what they say. Yeah? So P di sini is probability getting highly paid organized sector job dengan gaji yang mungkin lebih tinggi ya. WO, WI is the informal sector wage, WA is the agriculture wage, and assuming that one will get job either in organized and informal sector. The assumption di sini, if you don't get job in the organized sector, you will get job in the informal sector. Tapi remember, there is also another factor we talked about earlier on unemployment. Those who can get the job here cannot get in the informal sector either, so ended up unemployed. But that is not what is in their model lah. Model mereka ni adalah anggapan atau assumptionnya they will get a job, whether it is organized ataupun inorganized sector. Alright. So terdapat equilibrium equation dalam teori tersebut where WO or wage in organized sector didarab dengan the number of labor in the organized sector dibagikan dengan L, the total labor force, equals to WA. This is the hyperbolic equation ya. WA tadi adalah agriculture sector lah. Right. So where LO number of contestant, number of people who are looking for positions in the organized sector. L is the total labor force in the country, for example. Dengan andaian that WI equals 0, tidak ada kosong ya. Nobody works in the organized sector. In informal sector. Right? So that is when informal sector which is so low that nobody are looking for job in the informal sector sebagai contoh ya. So the equilibrium condition indicates that so long as the expected urban wage urban wage tadi exceeds the agriculture wage, right? Migrant will continue to flow to the urban areas and contribute to the increase in the urban labor force tadi. Right? So equilibrium macam ni lah. So this is WL tadi ya. WL constant. So wage and labor it can move along this line. Example, if you want at a lower wage rate, more people can be employed. At a higher wage rate, gaji besar, maka lebih kurang pekerja yang boleh digunakan because the cost of labor that increase So it moves along this line. Jadi as long as the wage is exceeding this line, remember this is line WA Ni gaji yang ada di kawasan luar bandar, agriculture sector. As long as the um, apa nama gaji itu lebih daripada agriculture sector, this is wage in the organized sector, so it can, labor market ni berada sini, so it can be around here, so kalau gaji RM10 contoh, you can employ a certain number of people, but less if apa nama there's only a limited number of labor you can employ at the certain wage labor dekat organized sector. This is example lah, organized sector sini. So the number of people can employ is here, while as the total labor tu lebih ramai. So if you want to absorb more people to reduce unemployment, you have to reduce the wage of the in the organized sector, and that's the argument mereka buat. So that's the hyperbolic equation that we were looking at. Jadi just explanation for the hyperbolic model tadi. Right? So the size of the urban labor market is determined from the size of the organized sector and its wage. Remember that this line tadi. Right? So it's determined by the size of the organized sector dan juga gaji. So those features actually determine the parameters LO tadi. So see, L tadi. So if the wage tadi di sini setakat ini sajalah. The number of people who can be employed in organized sector. Kalau nak turunkan wage tadi turun ke bahagian yang bawah sini, the number of people working in the organized sector boleh bertambah. Move towards this sampai ke tahap equilibrium, sampai ke tahap di sini, di mana wage of organized sector itu sama dengan gaji at the agriculture sector. So when at this stage tidak ada perubahan lagi, maknanya nobody will be interested to go to the urban areas to work in the organized sector because it's no different from the income they get from the agriculture sector. Itu argumentnya. Alright, so those features determine the parameters LO, which is number of jobs in the organized sector, and also the wage ataupun the fixed wage tadi. So the wage flow adalah di agriculture wage tadi lah yang paling rendah. So these factors will combine to determine the number of migrants going to the city until an equilibrium is reached. Itu model mereka, teori mereka. Tapi sebenarnya dari segi in reality, saya rasa people are still migrating to the city regardless of whether the gaji itu tinggi atau rendah. But the tendency is that as of now, the situation in most developing countries, gaji yang diperolehi on average, gaji yang diperolehi di kawasan bandar itu lebih tinggi daripada average wage ataupun salary ataupun income from agriculture sector. Itu secara umum, general. Of course, some people are earning more at the moment. Kalau di luar bandar ada kebun kelapa sawit sebagai contoh, If you have 10 acres of or 20 acres of oil palm now, you can earn about 10,000 ringgit, or even more with the price now, per month. Itu exceptional cases lah. But in general, it's lower than the urban areas wage. Okay, jadi proses empowerment yang berlaku adalah so let's say this is the total number of people from rural agriculture sector. Ada yang pergi migrate, ended up having a job in the formal sector. P sinilah, so proportion, percentage yang dapat formal sector, and then the balance tadi adalah 1 minus P tadi lah. Okay, kalau formal sector 70%, 1 minus P sini adalah 30% peluang untuk mendapat pekerjaan dalam informal sector yang lebih ya. Jadi teori tadi mengatakan bahwa everybody ya dalam teori ataupun teori Theodorus model tadi mengatakan everybody who move are either working in formal sector ataupun informal sector. So mereka tidak menganggapkan bahawa ada unemployment ataupun yang tak dapat kerja dalam sektor tersebut. Jadi sebenarnya there is ya. In fact kalau tidak mana ada timbulnya masalah unemployment ya, if not because of that. Jadi so that is Q, and then yang ini yang lebih itu adalah 1 minus P minus Q ya. So di overall ya ataupun yang selebihnya will ended up unemployed. Itu dari proses urbanisasi dan juga proses unemployment yang berkaitan dengan urbanization tadi. Alright, any question? Maybe if this is your first time looking at the theory, it may take a while for you to understand. Yeah? I'm trying to simplify teori tersebut. Okay, kalau tak ada, sorry. Hold on, I think let me check ada chat. Put message na. Why is that so? Cannot go in. Kenapa tak dapat masuk? Let me check. I'm not sure why some people cannot go in to the lecture this morning using, I didn't put any tidak ada sekatan apa-apa pun. Anybody can just go in. There's no restriction. I don't understand. Okay, yeah. Just a bit more. Yeah. Do you need to get invited to this class? I thought it's open lah. Siapa yang tak dapat masuk? Amin. Do you know who? Haziq, Haikal, sorry. Do you face any problem? Do you need to get invited? I don't think so. I think everybody can join this class, yeah. Okay. All right, so shall we go on? Hello? Okay.
Yes, Prof.
Ingatkan saya seorang je
Yes,
cakap
Prof.
sendiri sini. Okay. Sorry for those who can't come in. I don't think I put any restriction. So I don't know what's the reason behind that. And also saya pakai Webex ini, there's no restriction in terms of numbers. I don't know, maybe some technical problems. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, since this is recorded, maybe they will be able to follow the class later on, ya, secara persendirian. Ya. Anyway, so let's continue. Ya. We've seen this one. Yeah, all right. So this last slide that we went through. So that's where the process of unemployment is conceptually, yeah. Urban employment tadi lah. And by the way, of course, di Kawasan Bandar itu sendiri, right? Take this one out. Let's say tanpa mengira orang yang datang daripada luar bandar. There are already di kawasan bandar itu sendiri memang sudah ada orang yang tidak mendapat pekerjaan, ya. Jadi apabila orang daripada kawasan luar bandar juga masuk ke kawasan bandar, maknanya ianya akan menambahkan lagi keadaan tersebut, ya, menambahkan keburukan, if you will, ya, keadaan unemployment di kawasan bandar, ya. Jadi, so it's not just because of the rural-urban migration, but that actually it added to the condition tadilah, menambahkan lagi keadaan unemployment with additional people coming in from the rural areas. So, in terms of policy implication, we're coming towards. I'm closing now. In terms of the policy implication, there is an imbalance in employment opportunities between urban and rural areas as a result of urban bias development policy, and that should be reduced. Polisi macam ni, polisi adalah, for example, pembangunan ada di kawasan bandar tapi kurang di kawasan luar bandar. Right? So because of that, rural people are migrating to the urban areas. Jadi itu menyebabkan menyumbang kepada unemployment in urban areas as well. So imbalance employment opportunities. So apa yang boleh lakukan adalah untuk to create employment opportunities in the rural areas as well, just to balance it out. Supaya orang daripada luar bandar pun mendapat peluang pekerjaan dan tak perlu untuk pindah ke kawasan bandar. Right? And then I've just mentioned about this one, the fact that you create job atau employment opportunities in the urban areas, that is not really going to solve the problem. It's not the best solution to reduce urban employment. Sebabnya tadi adalah ianya because the moment you create a job in the urban areas, sekarang ni kan senang untuk orang tahu, dulu dekat newspaper orang letak peluang-peluang pekerjaan ni, advertisement on job opportunities sebagainya, you can see in the newspaper. Okay, dan kadang-kadang people in the rural areas could not access, tak tahu tentang peluang-peluang tersebut, because they don't buy newspaper ataupun maklumat tidak disampaikan melalui radio dan television and all that, kan. Tapi sekarang ini senang je, right? Those information can be channel through macam-macam channel, WhatsApp, Twitter, apa lagi, so social media, so you can actually get those information. The moment there is news that there are job opportunities, orang daripada luar bandar pun dengar juga, tahu juga. So they also think that they may have a chance, to get the job as well, to be employed. Jadi sebenarnya, so in a way, what I'm saying is that by creating jobs in the urban areas does not necessarily reduce the urban unemployment. Itu sebablah. Okay. Alright. So, if urbanization is a natural phenomenon, I think one of the things that I forgot to mention that, but it's implicit tadilah, maknanya urban population ini, urbanization, is happening everywhere, and it is something that is naturally happening, right? Memang akan berlaku. Okay? So, if urbanization is natural phenomenon that people are moving and tend to be living in the urban areas, then then policies ataupun strategies must be in place to cater for the needs of the growing urban population. That's the only way that we can do about it. Yeah? We cannot chase them out from the urban areas. Unfortunately, um, everybody has mempunyai should be given a chance. Yeah, no discrimination, right? So if they want to go to the urban areas and looking for job, that's their rights. Yeah, but because that is something that we cannot control, right? So one of the strategies is to cater for the needs of this growing urban population. Ya, contohnya basic needs, contohnya create more jobs. Although we have said early on, creating more jobs in the urban areas will not solve, but that's okay. I mean, at least the more people will be able to get employment ya in the urban areas. Keduanya berkaitan dengan housing. Okay, as more people are living in the urban areas, there is more need for housing, place to stay. Supply of water, clean water, dan sebagainya, channel to the house and so on. Yeah, so that is also increasing. So that is putting also pressure on the authority ataupun in our case it would be the water board, yeah, to provide more water supply to the growing population. Sama juga dengan electricity, ya. As more people are living in the urban areas, there is more need for electricity supply, connections and all that, ya. Sekolah pun sama, ya. As more people are moving to urban areas, more young children, ya. And so there is increasing need for schools, ya. Kalau dulu sekolah, kalau di Kuching lah, I mean, just to mention, sekolah St. Thomas, St. Mary's, St. Joseph and all that, plus a few ada sekolah lain. That was enough, yeah, in those days. Yeah, if you ask the old people, those were the school. Tapi sekarang ini, you have so many schools because let's say every what do you call this, residential area requires a school because there are enough children, yeah, to to be sent to the schools, yeah, in different places. So there is a need for that. Di samping school juga, of course, we're talking about colleges, universities, and so on, ya. Jadi itu keperluannya akan bertambah. Ya, jalan raya pun perlu diadakan, apalagi macam-macam lah, ya, yang perlu diadakan di kawasan bandar, ya, to meet the needs of the growing urban population. Okay, so itu more or less wrap up what we have for today with regard to the question of urbanization, and I hope you have gained some important knowledge, yeah, with regard to the topics on urbanization. Remember, if you talk to ordinary people in town or ordinary people you meet, yeah, who has never gone or never know what this urbanization means. Setengah orang tu mengatakan urbanization tu merujuk kepada bandar. Actually, it is not. Yeah, urbanization, technically speaking, yeah, is referring to the process of increasing urban population. Yeah? It's not talking about the city growth. Ya, yang selalu dikaitkan dengan ini adalah perkembangan, ya, berapa besar kawasan sebuah bandar. That is not what urbanization is all about. Tapi laymen ataupun orang biasa mungkin menganggap ianya begitu. So you who have gone through this course, you should be able to tell them, no, it's not talking about the growth of the city. We are talking about the increase in the urban population. Okay, paham, eh? All right. So there's some review questions which you can use to review the topic. Just as an example, for example, compare the rate of urbanization between developed and developing countries. And I think we've gone through that already just now. Explain why rural people migrate to the cities. That also has been explained. And one of the theories also explained that as well. The Haris Todaro models ataupun theory of rural urban migration. And and also what would be the best way ataupun what kind of policies or strategies for us to deal with the problem of rural urban migration ataupun urbanization, issues related to rural urban migration. Okey, jadi itu sajalah untuk setakat ini untuk topik untuk kita hari ini. Any comment, question? Tak ada?
No problem.
Ya, dah.
Alright, kalau tidak ada kita awallah mengakhiri kuliah kita hari ini. Minggu depan berapa hari bulan? Hold on. Minggu depan on the second next week. Sorry. Next week I may not be around to give a live lecture online sebab saya akan berada di luar kampus on official duty somewhere outside, so I wouldn't be in the office. Neither could I deliver from some other location. Right? There's a meeting, there's a board meeting that I have to attend. This time it's in KL, so I have to be away. But I have some recorded lecture which I had earlier on, yang mungkin saya boleh kongsikan kalau saya boleh cari lagi di mana saya letak my recorded lecture on the next topic. The next topic is I think on agriculture, if I'm not mistaken, on agriculture and rural development. Okay, tapi kalau tak dapat juga, dan saya akan buat kuliah seterusnya nantilah, boleh we can cover the missing lecture nanti. Right, ada itu berkenaan dengan next week punya schedule. And the following week, hopefully saya sempat untuk mengatur you punya exam lah, your midterm exam. Okay, any question? Clarification dan sebagainya kalau ada? Tak ada?
Ada.
Tak ada. So I hope everybody is clear lah. Right. Slide. I will put the slide later on. Upload the slide on Elite page. And also I think I have uploaded recorded lecture for last week also, if I'm not mistaken, or Elite. Kalau tak ada, you let me know. Ataupun saya terlupa minggu lepas untuk record. Not sure. Okay, I will stop recording now, but you still can ask question kalau ada lah.